You are now watching Maine Wire TV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
Thanks to these two dastardly characters on screen with me, we have lost another good one. We'll go to our friends from Mount Washington. Democratic State Rep Deqa Dhalac will not seek re-election to represent the House District 120, says the decision comes after, quote, serious reflection and conversations about the political climate for Black, capital B, elected leaders. Dhalac says during her time serving the Maine legislature, the climate has become increasingly hostile and unsafe. Throughout my tenure, I have experienced persistent racism, harassment, and threats that reflect a broader national pattern targeting Black and brown elected officials. I think naturally I'll have to yield the floor to Mr. Steve Robinson, who I believe is being mentioned here non-verbally by Deqa Dhalac. Steve?
Well, I mean, I would just say if she was Deqa McDalac or any other French, Irish, whatever, she'd never be an elected politician because she's really not that talented. She has actually benefited from being a Somali refugee for her entire political career. Really, her only success in office has been because of her ethnicity and her ability to play the race card. So her, phony claims about a hostile climate are ridiculous, but it's really the only card she has to play. And I think that the truth is that she is probably worried about finding a really, really good defense attorney right now, or booking a flight to Nairobi or Dubai, because there are multiple federal and state investigations looking at Gateway Community Services where in 2021, 2022, and 2023, she described herself as the assistant executive director on her financial disclosures that she submitted to the state legislature. And I would note that Democratic caucus members defending her insisted that she was part of the nonprofit arm, not the arm that's accused of defrauding Medicaid, but they're functionally the same organization. And she listed on her financial disclosures the migrant agency, not the nonprofit arm. She described herself as the assistant executive director of the LLC that was billing Medicaid roughly $5 million a year. And she described herself as holding that job during the period of time in which Christopher Bernardini, the whistleblower who came forward to us last year in May when we broke this story, and said that the company had engaged in a pattern of systemic fraud, that they were manipulating paper and electronic records to bill the state for services that were never rendered. They were turning 8-hour work weeks into 40-hour work weeks. They were basically just sending invoices to the Department of Health and Human Services and getting them paid. And Bernardini was clear that the direction to do this came from the top, from Abdullahi Ali himself, who's the CEO, who, by the way, hasn't returned to the United States since the investigations started. To the best of our knowledge, he's at his compound in Kenya, and even Kenyan media, by the way, is covering this story. He made the front page of one of the biggest daily newspapers in Kenya. So I would suspect that this resignation, despite what she wants to cloak it in and the fake cries of hostility or racism that she wants to invoke, are total BS and just cover for the fact that she's probably legitimately fearful about what these investigations might find. We know that the House Oversight Committee, under the leadership of Kentucky Republican James Comer, has requested suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department for both Ali and Dhalac. Those will show money transfers that she's made to overseas accounts, large amounts of money she's moved around domestically. And she lives in subsidized apartment complexes. So if those suspicious activity reports show that she's been moving around big buckets of money, I think that there will be some legitimate questions about why she qualified for low-income housing. And who knows what else those reports could find, or what else the House Oversight Committee will be able to find, because they do have subpoena power. They can do transcripted interviews. They can compel people to come in and testify under oath in closed door settings and on, C-SPAN hearings. So perhaps she got an invitation or not an invitation, but a demand that she come and sit for one of those interviews. I don't know. I don't have any insider knowledge to report in that regard, but looking at the circumstances, it seems likely that she's probably received some communications that lets her know that the investigation is a little bit more serious than John Featherston politely saying, "Hey, Representative Dhalac, can I ask you some questions?" In addition to that, we were standing out in front of the Gateway Community Services office on Canal Street in Lewiston when a squad of maybe 15 HSI agents showed up with a packet of papers that looked an awful lot like a search warrant. They knocked on the door and nobody was there to let them in, but that would suggest that there's an additional federal law enforcement investigation centered on one of Gateway's headquarters. In addition to that, it appears that the Department of Health and Human Services is conducting their own inquiry, looking at the 3 separate audits that all found Gateway overbilling Medicaid, and the Office of State Auditor under Matt Dunlap is also reviewing their finances. So you have state and federal, Democrat and Republican investigations all looking at Gateway, where Deqa Dhalac claimed, in her own words, to be the assistant executive director. So for her to say that, a hostile climate or, racism is the reason why she's stepping down, it doesn't pass the straight face test. It's baloney. The reason she's stepping down is because she's got bigger matters to deal with, like, staying out of jail.
So, John, just even a couple of weeks ago, you were down there. There were Republicans wanted restrictive committee assignments. It seemed like she was stubborn and holding strong just a few weeks ago. But as Steve is saying, something broke through. And so I assume that the Democrats took her aside, bought her lunch and said, this needs to end. You need to go here. So we're either going to sit you in the corner and no one's going to go near you, or you can just leave of your own accord here. And that's what's happened here. So do you assume that? So this is the first big hit on this. Is that fair to say? First of all, is this the first big casualty of this scandal?
I would say that's accurate. And most importantly, it's accurate, and something needs to happen here. Steve and the Maine Wire have blown the cover off of this. It's obvious that it's a huge problem. And to Steve's point, I mean, we're literally standing there, and you can see the disappointment on the agents' faces. Like, what do you mean it's locked up? And they went and pulled on the door. And I agree with Steve's assessment that they were there to raid the place. Somebody's in a lot of trouble. And I think it starts with, Ali, and second in line is Deqa Dhalac. And it's become very obvious that and for her to pull out the race card today and say, hey, I'm leaving because, I've been picked on for my race. Cite me an example. Once again, Sophia Khalid, Deqa Dhalac, cite me an example where Steve Robinson or John Featherston or the Maine Wire has picked on you because you come from Somali. No. We're holding you accountable because you're associated with fraud. And those are the facts. We wouldn't cover the story any different, to Steve's earlier point, if it was an Irishman, if it was a Scotsman, if it was a French Canadian. We wouldn't have covered it any different. Fraud is fraud. You're going to be held accountable. And, pulling out the race card just adds another pathetic chapter to the story, in my opinion.
How much
I would also say, in addition to her entire political career being predicated on being a Somali refugee, the no-bid contracts that we obtained after the Mills administration denied our Freedom of Access Act request and told us that it wasn't technically possible for them to find all of those no-bid contracts. Among them, the ones awarded to Gateway Community Services, we found contracts where big buckets of money are given to Gateway at the time when Deqa is there as the assistant executive director, where the rationale on the government form for doing this through a no-bid contract process is literally Abdullahi Ali's bio copied and pasted into the government form. All it says is he's a Somali refugee. Like, that was the only reason they provided for why you didn't have to go through a competitive bidding process, why this could be done through the opaque, non-transparent, no-bid contract process. So the entire organization, the money that flows into it, all of it is based on their status as Somali refugees. So she's accrued maximum benefits from being a Somali refugee. There's been no hostility. It's been exactly the opposite.
100%.
And let me ask you, John and Steve, was this made? Is she stepping down right now if the Lewiston shooting fund scandal didn't explode?
I would say yes. I think that that is maybe a sidecar. It exacerbates it. It certainly it hits people in a different non-political way to know that the Lewiston Shooting Fund, money raised for shooting victims, was raided by migrant NGOs that did nothing for the victims' families or the survivors. It intensifies it, but I don't think it has anything to do with the underlying investigations here. The investigations here are looking at the Medicaid fraud allegation leveled by Chris Bernardini, the close to $700,000 PPP loan that was taken by Gateway, and according to the employees I've talked with, never distributed to employees. The investigation is looking at, very likely, the flow of money to overseas accounts. Abdullahi Ali has said in Somali language interviews, in his own words, that he was using money he raised in the United States to bankroll a militia that he wanted to use to militarily depose the sitting president of Jubaland. I think that that's something that the federal law enforcement will be highly interested in investigating. I think that that's probably a big part of why the feds are looking at this organization. And we also know from social media videos posted by Somali content creators, posted by Dhalac herself, that she's a world traveler. By my count, she's traveled to Puntland, where upon deplaning, she's greeted like she's Kim Kardashian or Taylor Swift. Yeah, we've got the video right there. I mean, this is a country where women aren't even allowed to vote, and she's got a hero's welcome getting off the plane. I mean, I wonder why that is. Perhaps there's some kind of benefit being delivered to the people of Somalia through Representative Dhalac. But in addition to having traveled to Puntland, we know that she took a junket to Turkey and Azerbaijan because she posted Instagram glamour pics while she was standing on ground that Armenian Christians say was ethnically cleansed by the Azeri military. It's an odd choice for your Instagram pic. She's also posted photographs of herself traveling in Rwanda, and she's a world traveler on what appears to be a very, very small state legislator income. So I think that the federal investigators will be interested in all of that travel, all of the flows of money, and the overlap between her travel, her money, and the activities of Abdullahi Ali while he was campaigning for office in Jubaland. Particularly, I think the question will be, were they in Azerbaijan to broker arms deals for southern Somalia? Azerbaijan officials have made no secret of their desire to sell arms to Somalia. Abdullahi Ali was bragging about raising a militia and trying to arm a militia. So right around the same time, he's in Azerbaijan taking meetings with high-level Azeri officials. He also has a need for weapons and armaments. It seems likely to me, just connecting the dots as a humble blogger from Dexter, Maine, that there was an arms deal brokered there, funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars to back his failed campaign to become president of Jubaland. I think that the FBI takes a dim view of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would
You know,
think
one thing,
several.
Tom,
Go ahead.
I wanted to add though, Tom, and I think it's important because Gateway tries to say, well, we're Gateway, home healthcare, and we're Gateway, nonprofit, community organization. Steve and I have been booked to both of those offices. They're the same company. It's one desk over. It's not a different division. It's not a different office. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
different space. They're all the same. And for them to sit there and say, whoa, and then other main legitimate media news organizations say, oh, well, they're different. They're not different. They're all the same. Please stop.
That is a thing that I'm learning. I've learned so much from this investigation, from just watching what you guys have been doing from the Maine Wire when I was a spectator, and it was adjacent. And it is amazing, not only the breadth of this scandal. It seems to be so. There are ties through all sorts of different people and New Mainers. Not only that, but the scandal itself seems wide, but not particularly deep in the the precaution taken to make sure that there's plausible deniability in a lot of it. A lot of ways, it just seems freaking lazy. Cover yourself off. Make sure there's not 29 offices in one building, or make sure that the desk over here is not related to the desk over here. But it just seems. Am I wrong?
Nope.
It just seems half-assed.
Well, I
Because
think
it's easy to do. That's simple. It's that simple. Nobody's checking, and that's the problem. I'm sorry, Steve.
I think I guess my having thought about this somewhat, it seems to me that Gateway came up in the LePage years. Abdullahi Ali formed Gateway in 2013, and during that time there was a good deal more scrutiny on organizations that were billing Medicaid. So I think he was maybe a little bit savvier and smarter about what he was doing. But then when Governor Mills came in, there was a little bit of added political protection. And of course, Deqa Dhalac comes on as assistant executive director, which adds another layer of political protection. So I think after surviving a few of these audits and seeing them effectively just get broomed, they became a little bit more emboldened. And at the same time, there's a collapse of the traditional media in the state. So they know that the Press Herald and the Bangor Daily News aren't really doing any digging or investigative work. And I mean, those reporters probably don't even know how to find government contracts, if I'm being totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
So they only know what is fed to them by political actors and by government employees. So there's a lot of leaking and tattletaling going on, but not a lot of original investigating going on. And because of that, they were emboldened and they grew more comfortable, and they didn't know or didn't suspect that anybody would be flipping over rocks to look at things like, gee, how many home healthcare agencies are co-located with Gateway's headquarters in Lewiston? Gee, why is it that these political action groups all have the same employees as Gateway Community Services and the same board of directors? Why do these no-bid contracts that the Mills administration are giving to Gateway and other NGOs really resemble political activities aimed at re-electing Governor Mills? They didn't think anybody was going to look. That's why so much of it was, documented in public records. And when you did start to look, was easy to show. Even the most skeptical observer would have to come to the same conclusions that we've come to, which was that there was an uneasy relationship between Gateway and the Maine Democratic Party that was entirely political. Money flowed to Gateway. Gateway returned the favor with political activism. And Democrats turned around and protected them from investigations. I think a lot of scrutiny here also belongs on Attorney General Aaron Frey. If you look at the timeline here, we first reported on the DHHS notices of violation to Gateway showing that they overbilled Medicaid, along with Abdullahi Ali's trips to Jubaland, Somalia, his presidential campaign, in March of last year. And we followed that up in May with a report based on the whistleblower testimony saying that he observed systemic Medicaid fraud. The following month, Attorney General Aaron Frey awarded to Gateway $400,000 in opioid settlement money. That's a lot of money, and the facts about Gateway haven't changed. The facts we reported about Gateway before he made that award have all stood up. Not a word of our reporting has been discredited or contradicted by subsequent reporting. The national media has simply picked up the reporting and amplified attention on it and forced the local left-wing outlets to cover it. And so Attorney General Fry had to have known about the credible allegations. He passed up a chance to investigate or to even see whether there was an opportunity to investigate or press charges here. So a good deal of scrutiny should be placed on the Attorney General's office and their relationship with Gateway and what kind of political pressures were placed on them to avoid investigating for violations of state law.
Well, not only that, Steve, but as you've been writing about, he circulates emails around saying, don't talk to the feds and don't call the feds. We'll take care of it. We'll call everybody. Don't answer the phone. Don't answer emails. Don't answer questions from any feds. Okay. Just reroute them to me. Shady.
Well, that's the big. I mean, that's the big picture here is the conduct of the Department of Health and Human Services generally under the Mills administration, and especially with the Medicaid / Maine Care program, which is the big money program in the state budget. That the House Oversight Committee's investigation is looking at whether the Mills administration spent money on Medicaid benefits for non-citizens and then illegally reimbursed themselves from federal dollars, because states are allowed to offer whatever they want for coverage to illegal aliens, but they're not allowed to have the federal government pick up a share of that funding like they are with U.S. citizens. And states like California have been caught pushing hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars in ineligible illegal alien Medicaid benefits onto the federal government. And that results in a serious federal clawback, which can cause some big problems for states when they, have governors out there doing state of the state speeches when they're promising to send everybody $300 checks and, $2 million for Planned Parenthood and everybody gets a pony and that kind of thing. It's hard to fulfill those promises when the federal government is looking to claw back a very large amount of money. We haven't gotten to the bottom of whether the state was actually pushing illegal alien Medicaid benefits off onto the federal government, but we do have some indication that there's errors within Maine's Medicaid reimbursements because of the report from the Office of Inspector General that came out last week that found $46 million in erroneous payments, missed payments, that the state made in just 2023 in Maine Care Section 28, which is child autism. So things were going pretty fast and loose in the Maine Care offices, and the House Oversight investigation is probably going to find a lot of material that the Mills administration would rather keep secret. And to what you just said, Tom, we know they want to keep it secret because Aaron Fry is sending around emails saying, don't talk to the Justice Department. And the commissioner for the Department of Health and Human Services, Sarah Gagne Holmes, who was the deputy commissioner for several years before she took the top spot, she's in emails that we obtained under the Freedom of Access Act saying the last thing we want is a congressional subpoena. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing there, but she was expressing fear of receiving a congressional subpoena from the House Oversight Committee. So just reading the tea leaves, there's every indication that some really bad, illegal stuff happened at the Department of Health and Human Services, the biggest department of state government. They're taking steps to cover it up now. And Gateway is probably just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the malfeasance that was on display throughout COVID-19, Mills' reelection effort in 2022. And a lot of it is probably ongoing.
Hey, John, how much?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when Mills sits there in multiple press conferences, goes, I don't know why ICE is here. I don't know why ICE is here. Well, because Shanna Bellows doesn't share the voter data. You don't share the SNAP data. Your attorney general is saying don't get a subpoena. you don't participate with the federal government, and the federal government sends you a lot of money. And with that money that they send you, there are simple expectations that you openly participate with the federal government. And when you don't actively participate with the federal government, there are consequences. And those consequences, right or wrong, is why you're now under federal scrutiny and you have ICE in your backyard. You see the other states that cooperate with the federal government, they don't have that in there. For Mills to play, oh, I don't know why they're here. I don't know why they're picking on us. It's because you started this fight by not sharing the data, threatening the president, telling him that you'll see him in court. There's consequences for actions. You're a governor. You're not the president. There's a big difference.
Yeah, and some of these wires were tripped during the Biden administration, and investigations began during the Biden administration. You can't imagine that Merrick Garland got a mandate from Joe Biden to go hassle blue state governors. So, some of this stuff was just unable. You could not ignore it. I will say, I think that a challenge has been, just journalistically, we'll say, until the last few months, is that if you went out there shopping these stories around, Steve, obviously you're breaking news, but in your elevator pitch about these stories, you're mentioning a thing called Jubaland, which nobody had heard of. Nobody. And so, it makes it, as far as if you want to consume news, it makes it almost a little unbelievable. Jubaland warlord in Maine? No, I don't think so. But the great thing, and here's a kudos to both of you guys, from the great thing about the Maine Wire is you have now made that a household word. People know what Jubaland is, that it's a little state or province in Somalia, and that's thanks to you. You know what you are, Steve? You're the Ray Kroc of Jubaland. You didn't invent McDonald's, but you made it a household thing.
I'll say, I'm a pretty big deal on Somali TikTok. My friend Abdi Iftin tells me that I am racist MAGA man on TikTok, and he is known as a Somali spy or an American spy. That's what they're referring to him as. But yes, we're probably the most read American news outlet in Somalia, at least in Jubaland. And I don't even want to tell you how many hours of my life I lost trying to understand geopolitics in Somalia, because it's not as simple as learning about, the Missouri Compromise or the division between, Washington State and Canada, or the Aroostook War. The boundaries there are just a little bit more fluid. And so are the politics. It was a foreign concept to me to learn that you could, the sitting president of Jubaland could just decide that term limits didn't apply to him, and he could have his own election and deny the election of the two challengers, including Abdullahi Ali. And then the central government, which basically just controls Mogadishu and a bunch of money and guns, gets to decide which of those elections they're going to recognize. Which is why I've been saying that Somalia, it looks like a neat little place on a map, but it's really just a piece of land with a bunch of clans fighting over it. The thing that people really need to understand about Jubaland is that it is the piece of land in the area we describe as Somalia, where Al-Shabaab is thought to have the highest or the greatest extent of control. Al-Shabaab being the Somali radical Islamic terrorist organization, whom Abdullahi Ali, to his credit, says he wanted to use his militia against. It gets a little complicated, but I do think that Dr. Abdullahi Ali, despite his funding methods here in Maine, did stylize himself as like the Barack Obama of Jubaland. He published a campaign manifesto that was very, very progressive. He actually wanted to restore, or I guess bring about for the very first time, universal suffrage. He was going to, after he won the election, he was going to allow people to vote.
Wow.
After he militarily deposed the sitting president of Jubaland, he was going to then bring about the franchise. And I'm not sure whether that applied to women or not, but he ran a very progressive campaign.
I will have you know, as you're denigrating the Jubilant government, that I found out.
I was not denigrating. I was not. I am the hero of Jubiland. I'm giving them more attention than anything. That's the worst thing anybody's ever said about me, that I'm denigrating Jubiland.
I will just say that I found out from our governor 2 days ago that immigrants actually created for the 4th of July the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So take that with you. Your hatred. Go ahead, Steve.
We were, I think, all in a state of disbelief and dumbfounded as we did the play-by-play for the final State of the State address that Janet Mills will give. But her assertion that immigrants wrote the United States Constitution, I would love an opportunity to interrogate that assertion a little bit more, just to interview her and ask her, who does she think wrote the Constitution? Like, when does she think it was written? Where does she think that James Madison was born? I would love to know the extent of her actual knowledge, not her speechwriter's knowledge, about the American Revolution and the founding of the country, because this is it's a perplexing statement on so many levels.
Well, I think it's over there to the right, the volume, the sound button there.
Smoke or use other substances to cope with stresses in life.
Oh no, that's the Coke clip. I was talking about her saying that immigrants wrote the U.S. Constitution, which I clarified in my Substack, which I've gotten pretty good feedback on. If people want to sign up for the Substack, by the way, asmainegoes.com. But it got me curious enough to look at of the declaration signers and the participants at the Constitutional Convention, how many of them were born on U.S. soil versus came here from the British Isles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know why she made this mistake, and it's because Alexander Hamilton was born in the West Indies. So I think that her knowledge of the U.S. founding comes from Hamilton, the Manuel, what's his name, play.
Manuel,
so I think so I think she probably has seen that a few times, and just maybe her brain got mixed up and she decided that none of the founding fathers were actually born in the United States, but only 8 of the participants in the Constitutional Convention were born outside of the United States. They were all born in the United States. They didn't immigrate to a country. They created a country. I don't know really what else you can say in response to something that's so historically ignorant and just nonsensical.
Well, we do all agree that they were trans. Certainly, that is not a
point
of course,
to
argue.
Of course.
By the way,
were they trans, or were they, wielders of toxic masculinity? I mean, picking up a gun and throwing off the British monarchy is that's toxic masculinity in my view.
Not to be outdone, by the way, by another blue state Democrat, Ed Markey, talked about the revolution yesterday, and he cited the Minutemen and the Minute Women who took up arms against the British.
That's breaking news.
All right, I want to get to a must-watch. Did we play this yesterday? I don't think we played it, did we? This is Steve Robinson with Matt Walsh. Came out yesterday. I found this.
I think it came out today.
Did it come out today? No. Yeah. It came out last night because I've been watching. I scraped audio for my show last night. Oh. Definitely. Yeah. No, it's it's such a must listen podcast, and I do this thing. My wife is angry at me where I'll listen to it while I'm sleeping, and I'll just keep on playing it just so the stuff sinks in. This was such a great backgrounder on how any of this stuff was broken wide open, especially with the Lewiston shooting fund scandal, which is the thing that, and I know that there's all sorts of, like, Deqa's got all sorts of legal problems that aren't that, but that's the one that's easy to talk to. That's the one that it's easy to tell people that for people of all political stripes, all cultures, if you tell them, it just seems so fundamentally unfair that something like that would happen. Matt, let me know if you can find that in the should be in the chat there. The Matt Walsh clip. This is well worth listening to. You essentially did you get the producer credits for that? Because that entire show was written by Steve Robinson.
Yeah, I don't know if I got credits for it, but they were grateful for my assistance talking them through the story. It is a complicated one. There's twists and turns. So I was happy to collaborate with our friends at the Daily Wire. No, a formal relation, by the way. And I'll note that the Maine Wire was founded before the Daily Wire.
Ooh.
Some of these fake Somali nonprofits made far more money from this fundraiser than the actual survivors of the shooting, who were white. There were no Somalis among the victims. The reason the scam was uncovered is that beginning in February of last year, Edward Tomick and Steve Robinson of the Maine Wire started reporting on where the donations were going. And Robinson reported that the Maine Community Foundation, a nonprofit founded in 1983, launched, quote, 2 concurrent fundraisers just 2 days after the mass shooting, October 27th, 2023. The foundation ultimately raised more than $6 million across 2 fundraisers, one of which was explicitly earmarked for victims. The other fundraiser was earmarked for Lewiston Auburn Area Broad Recovery and Organizations Fund. The idea was that by donating, you'd help the community recover from the mass shooting. Well, the Maine Wire found that roughly $4.7 million was indeed sent to victims and their families, but nearly $2 million went to immigrant and refugee-related nonprofits that have no connection to the shooting whatsoever. And it's clear why this happened. At least 4 members of on the 10-person steering committee on the fund were, in turn, representatives for organizations that received money from the foundation.
So, yeah, once again, I can't recommend it enough to people. Just watch it or listen to it. I usually listen to these things. It was great. It's a great TikTok. What TikTok used to mean of a timeline of how this came to be. Different transactions. There's nobody better than Steve Robinson at going through this. I want to mention John Featherston today, out and about with Graham Platner, who was in Portland, right outside of Susan Collins' office. Correct. Gave a speech and then talked with you for a couple of minutes. I guess we'll go with you know what, let's go with John's conversation with Graham Platner. And I've got to say that I actually was kind of impressed with Platner, how he carried himself today.
So you don't believe Susan Collins' words today?
Take it with a grain of
at a time where we have seen this administration ignoring legal orders, for instance, like to release the Epstein files, which we are now 40 days past, I do not take their word of things. And for Susan Collins to come out and say that the reason, and to seemingly try to claim some sort of victory here, that she's protecting the people of Maine just because she's gotten a pinky promise from Kristi Noem, that is not enough for me. I need to see something far more substantial. And when we do get ICE out of Maine, it's important for people to understand that that came from below. That came from power, from organizers, from a mobilized population. It is that power that is going to push ICE out of Maine. And those in power who have done nothing are not the ones who get to take credit. The people of Maine get to take credit.
Thank you, sir. So you don't.
I think it's good messaging. I want to give all sorts of credit to you, John, for not getting violent with a woman who said, take it with a grain of oysters. Must have been tough. But you know what?
She was an interesting person. Yeah. So
So Platner is a Democrat running for office in the state of Maine who's a far left progressive, John, and he talked to you, a real reporter from the Maine Wire. How'd you get it done?
Well, I've told this to Steve and other people at the Maine Wire. I have to be fair and I have to be honest. I've had a half a dozen conversations with Graham Platner. He's always been nice to me. He's always been friendly. He's always been gentle. And he and I, the second conversation that we ever had, I literally flat out said to him, I don't agree with anything that comes out of your mouth during your speeches, but I will always treat you fairly and report you honestly. And he literally shook my hand and hugged me and said, that's all I can ask, because if I'm going to be successful, I need people who don't agree with me to talk with me and stuff like that. And like I said, even this morning, he said to me, hey, John, hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. And, we exchanged, very quick pleasantries and stuff like that. But he's good at these types of events. You know, he's probably not going to earn my vote, but you know, he's good at those types of events. He's good with people. He knows how to talk. And Janet Mills should be worried because he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to campaign.
And Steve, I noticed that not only did he use the pinky swear thing with John, but he also used it in his speech. He stuck to his message that ICE is going around murdering people. They're arresting the fathers of newborn children. They're just grabbing people willy-nilly. But his messaging, however radical and inaccurate that is, his message discipline is tight. Like, this guy's either naturally good at this or getting some excellent coaching from somewhere. He's got a discipline and a tightness with his delivery that is beyond his years in politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great actor and he's playing a great role. And that's one of the reasons why he was recruited to run as a candidate. If I had to bet right now, if I had to be an odds maker in the Democratic nomination, I would probably say like 30-70 Platner. Some of the political insiders I've talked with on the Democrat side and the Republican side both say the combination of Platner's activities this week, as well as the governor's poor performance during the State of the State address, really have set this race on a trajectory that's in Platner's favor. We'll see if Platner wants to sit down for a Robinson Report interview. I would love to sit down and talk with him in a long-form podcast and hear him out and maybe get beyond some of the stump speech sound bites and talk about the ideas that he actually has and some of the criticisms that he actually has, because I think that there's like political ideology is a circle, and there's some areas where people on the far left and people on the far right agree on some issues about the abuses of corporate power or government power. And I think a lot of the things that Graham Platner has to say will resonate with the populist right, and some of them won't. But I think he's definitely survived a political scandal, an attack by Chuck Schumer, an Oppo dump that would have taken out almost any other politician. And you'd have to handicap him as the favorite to take down Mills in this election. And I would also say, by the way, that that interview right there, I mean, you've got to be his favorite reporter, John. That's perfect. That's the best coverage he's going to get. There's more eyeballs on that interview than anything that will be seen on the local TV networks that basically the septuagenarians are watching. And that is the fearsome, racist, nasty, vitriolic reporting that had to be barred from the floor of the House of Representatives. They're contriving right now in the State House to pass legislation that will effectively allow lawmakers to ban reporters that they don't like, not just from entering government buildings, but from contacting government entities. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is targeted towards the Maine Wire, which is weird because we haven't done a lot of combative, in your face, with a video camera ambush interview type reporting. But as we just saw, I mean, that's John's style there, going up saying, hey, how are you doing? Good morning. Do you mind if I ask you a question and do an interview with you? That is the kryptonite of the Maine Democratic Party. That is the thing they fear most in the world, is a pleasant, gentlemanly inquiry as to how they feel about a political issue, which I think says a lot about the intellectual rigor and the confidence that some of these politicians have.
John, I think the boss subtly leaked what's going to be an exclusive headline in the Maine Wire quite soon, I think, in his own way. I will say another thing for Platner. So Mills hasn't really gone after him, right? Nobody's gone after anybody as yet in the same party. And the reason for that is because these campaigns can conk out. I mean, there's a chance that he could run out of money. I guess she probably can't run out of money, I wouldn't think, unless she gets desperate. He's got a big air spend now. So he looks like he's on a trajectory. But when's it going to be time for somebody to really take a shot at somebody else in the Democratic field?
I think he ignores Mills. He is from day one made Collins his target. And I was kind of shocked at that at first, but he's been very consistent since September that Susan Collins is his target. He doesn't mention Janet Mills. The press mentions him to Janet Mills, but I think he's going to stay just focused that he's running against Susan Collins, and he's not even going to acknowledge Mills until the bitter end. You know, when you're probably going to have to do a debate, at least one debate, and that'll be fascinating to watch as well too. But maybe Steve has a different perspective.
Well, I think he has made some indirect attacks. I guess I would say that the style of Maine Democrats is generally to avoid direct confrontation and criticism, unless, of course, you're Kiernan Majerus Collins, in which case you show up banging on the door of the primary opponent for your wannabe girlfriend and harass them to drop out of the race. That was pretty confrontational, allegedly. But I think that his criticism of Janet Mills can be heard in this commercial that he's released. I don't know if you guys saw the 60-minute commercial, the first that they're up with. Very well done. I think just objectively speaking, it's going to appeal to men in Maine. It was a great message. If you don't know that he's, a trust funder who doesn't really work, it would be an effective, persuasive message because he talks about a lot of the themes that will resonate with people in the second district. The people that I grew up with will see that commercial and it will resonate with him. And he talks about the conditions on the ground in Maine, the economic conditions in Maine, and how things have gotten worse in recent years. And that in its own way is an attack on Governor Mills. She's been governor of Maine for 7 years. She's had total Democrat control of the legislature. She's had an extra $15 billion dropped in her lap from COVID money, and everything's gotten worse. As I've said frequently, there's no measure of economics, political science, social science, any science or there's no measure yet invented by which Maine has improved over the last 7 years. So when Platner criticizes the current condition of things in Maine, he is indirectly attacking Governor Mills. He's also, by the way, attacking his own party, his own ideology, all of the people who have endorsed him, the platform that he wants to bring to the entire country. But I think that is probably a minor concern for him. But I think that both Mills and Platner will be keeping their sights trained on Susan Collins because, again, she has been in office for a long time, and his criticism that the debt's gone up and and inflation sucks, and you can argue about the extent to which Senator Collins has had a role in any of the national problems, but she's been there a long time, so it's a fair criticism to be able to say everything that you don't like about what the federal government has done, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, is in some way to Senator Collins' fault. So I think it'll be an effective ad. We'll see how much money there is to be put behind it. I think that Janet Mills is going to have a lot of money. She was handpicked and basically dragged into the race by Chuck Schumer. So he's going to make sure that she has plenty of money to spend on advertising. But I think that the Progressive Coalition lined up behind Platner is also going to be well funded. And I think just looking at the communication styles and the staff, Platner's people are more talented, and that's an underestimated part of any campaign. Mills' operation seems really, really ragtime and amateurish. And all the money in the world behind a bunch of dunces isn't going to help them run an effective campaign. She's releasing her videos prematurely. They're poorly shot. She looks red and blotchy and poorly, she's not lit well. The emails are kind of absurd and stilted and look like they're just ChatGPT vomit. There's not a lot of aspects of her campaign so far, especially on the digital side, where you look at it and you're like, wow, that's impressive. Whereas the first, Graham's rollout, suddenly he's everywhere. He's got 15,000 followers on Blue Sky, profiles in Vanity Fair. All the media outlet are just, drooling over the guy. He somehow manages to survive what for anybody else would have been a fatal, series of controversies. And his first commercial, it looks like a promo for a Tom Cruise action movie. And it's because they've got the video team that got Mamdani elected in New York. And Mamdani, too, had a very, very fast, very high quality video operation that could have him out in the field meeting constituents. And then within 2 hours, they were kicking that out as Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter videos. So it was a communication strategy that got inside the OODA loop of his competition. And the OODA loop, I think it's observe, orient, decide, act. It's a term that fighter pilots came up with to describe the process for how you dogfight and maneuver. And President Trump was the first one who was really, really good at getting inside his opponent's OODA loop, in that he was shooting from the hip and making decisions so quickly that all the other candidates couldn't react fast enough, because they were accustomed to taking criticism from a political opponent, gathering with their brain trust and their consultants and figuring out what to do, and then issuing a press release in response. But by the time they'd done that, he was already on to his next attack. And Platner is going to be doing the same thing to Mills and to Susan Collins, I think. He's a fast, nimble candidate. Yeah. He's good on his feet, and he has pros working for him.
And one thing you can't discount, Tom, I'm riding in an elevator up to Susan Collins's 8th floor office today with 10 women that are 50 plus. And the entire conversation on the up to the 8th floor is, isn't he handsome? Isn't he, isn't he a nice guy? So, you laugh at it, but that's an important demographic in voting, the 50-year-old, educated, person that's coming out. Oh, he's handsome. He's a nice guy. That works in his favor versus, an older, not so fresh looking, Janet Mills. That could drive people out.
That's very sexist what you just said, John. But
it is, but it's hey, it's politics. Likability is politics. That's how you get elected. Yeah.
I would also say to Susan Collins' credit, something that doesn't, it might not show up in focus groups or messaging polls or whatever, just like the talent level of your staff, is the quality of the staff that she has in her Senate office and the quality of her constituent services. You're going to be very, very hard pressed to find somebody who's had a poor experience with Senator Collins' constituent services. Like, your mail's not getting delivered, or you've got whatever issue and you bring it to Senator Collins, and she has, world-class constituent services. And that's a big part of being a member of Congress that a lot of people don't talk about. All your activity in DC is what gets talked about, but her constituent services have earned her a lot of loyalty in the state of Maine. And the other thing is that her being the chair of the Appropriations Committee, it's like sneaky a big deal. I can't tell you how many people I have talked with who understand or intuit or believe that Senator Collins being on the Appropriations Committee translates to better economics or a better life in Maine. And you could ask these people, okay, like, when has an appropriation from the federal government ever directly benefited you? And they probably couldn't name a thing, but just culturally or from the news media they've consumed or whatever it is, they understand that having a senior high-ranking senator who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee is going to be beneficial for the state of Maine. Whereas if you throw Platner in there, who is, the Democrat power structure doesn't even want him, that he's not going to be as strong a trustee or representative of the interests of the state. So Senator Collins has those two things going for her. And she also is one of the best Republican campaigners in the state. She has a world-class operation, and the operation that she runs benefits every Republican running on the ticket. She has great data, great staff. She's a very, very excellent at running campaigns. And all you have to do is look at the scoreboard. I mean, she has run up some embarrassing victories. I'm speaking particularly of her defeat of Shenna Bellows. I mean, that was like a 25-point victory over Shenna Bellows. And granted, it's Shenna, but in 2020, she was up against a very well-funded former House Speaker, Sarah Gideon, who all of the polls across the board said it was going to be either neck and neck, or Sarah Gideon was ahead by 4 or 5 points, and then Susan blows her out of the water by 6 or 7 points. So the polls were just way, way off when it came to the Maine Senate race in 2020. And Senator Collins has consistently outperformed expectations. So I wouldn't count her out just because Graham can, add some neat commercials, and his stump speeches are good.
I will also just say this, that it shows well that today I decided to just do a deep dive on his YouTube appearances, any social media appearances. And pretty much for the last 6 years, they're all scallop stuff. And he doesn't come off.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Scallop fishing. What do you call it?
What's a scallop?
It's
Are you talking about scallops?
Oyster.
Oh, scallop. Oh, it's not a scallop?
Are you talking about scallops? Scallops. You're talking about scallops. Sorry.
They have the King's English in Bowdoin, Steve. I couldn't get in. We scallops. Yes. Is it scallops? Anyway, I learned something about scallops by watching him. He didn't come off like a jerk at all. So he's been doing this thing. Maybe he's rich kid who does scallops, and that's his thing, but it's believable. But I want to go back to Susan Collins' staff here. Well, let me read a couple messages, first of all. Matt says, I'm so bleeping tired of both sides. Democrats are hell-bent on destroying Maine. Republicans pretend to be giving a bleep when they really do not. They're all in it. I understand why you're cynical, Matt. I think we've all been there. Let's see. Somebody had something about him being disabled. If he's 100% disabled, if Platner, this is Rick, if Platner's 100% disabled and has PTSD from the service, not able to work and collecting free health benefits, how can he be a member of the U.S. Senate? I think John Fetterman is how. Maybe is that how? I don't know. Is he 100% disabled? He seems to have all sorts of energy, and he can communicate well.
He's very candid about it in his speeches. He does say that he's 100% disabled, and he is fortunate that he can collect his disability and run for the campaign. So,
I'll say not all injuries are physical, Tom. Not all of us are afflicted with gout. Sometimes your injuries can be psychological.
How do you know that about me, or do you just assume that about me visually?
I actually think that you've complained publicly multiple times over the 15 years I've known you about your lifelong battle with gout. It might have something to do with your love affair with tripe, if I'm being honest.
Oh, tripe is so good.
But yeah, I've heard it said, and I think he has been public about being 100% disabled through the military, which would mean, the oyster thing is more of a hobby than a business, I would guess. But I don't see that really as being a big issue or a line of attack on him that will be very fruitful. I mean, I think Dianne Feinstein, was she in a wheelchair? She was in a wheelchair when she cast her, like the day she died, and cast a vote. Yes. And I don't know if she was wheelchair bound when she was running for re-election, but the health of senators or Congress critters, it's never really been a huge factor. And no. I think that just from his physical performance at events and in that first ad he put out, I don't think there's going to be any questions about his health. Now, his temper, that could be another issue. I think a risk if I'm counseling him going into a debate or any public performances, it's, don't lose your temper or appear to be angry, because he does seem like he could perhaps be a little volatile. But yeah, I mean, it's a great mustache. But,
oh, that's right. Here's a good quote from him. He wasn't cold, just so you know. He's no way.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I don't think that the 100% disability issue is going to be a major factor in the campaign.
Steve, you had mentioned the great constituent services that Susan Collins has, and John actually captured some of that in person. We have, Matt, I
felt terrible for him.
Couple of great cuts, Matt, from John today at Susan Collins' office. One is a 23. Yeah. Start right there. This is great.
Excuse me, do you have a business card?
Yes, ma'am. I'd be happy to get that with you once we've gotten through everyone.
I
Are
want
you
it
doing?
now. I'm part of the press. I would like it now.
I'd be happy to get that for you, ma'am. We're just gonna go through everyone, and when we swap to the next group, I'd be happy to grab that for you. Justin, would you grab me a business card?
Yes. I'm part of the press.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
part of the press, but she doesn't have any contact information for Senator Collins' office.
No.
What outlet is she from? winosunited.org?
Can you imagine having to send Justin out to get her a business card?
Yeah, I would
interesting.
really. I thought the Collins staffers conducted themselves with aplomb, and I did notice, by the way, an image I tweeted out. One of the protesters or agitators, whatever you want to call them, holding a sign calling for ICE agents to be hung.
Yes.
Technically, it should be hanged, but I won't get too pedantic with them. But that's great that Platner and the Democrats are allying themselves with people calling for the execution of federal law enforcement officers. And another thing, while I'm on the topic, is Platner in his interview with you, John, is talking about he wants every last ICE agent out of the state of Maine. Well, does that include the ICE agents that investigate child pornography? Because a lot of people don't know this, but ICE is the foremost federal agency investigating child sexual assault material. ICE is the agency that would have investigated, for example, Elliot Cutler. So if you're calling for a complete end to ICE activity in Maine and getting all of the ICE agents out of Maine, you're basically giving a huge gift to people who traffic in CSAM. So maybe you should think through the second and third order consequences of these sound bites that sound good before you're uttering them.
I'll also say that whoever's making the posters here not only was hung, not what you do, it is hanged, as Steve was saying. And also, let's stay away from themes of ICE agents being well hung. Just table that and move on to something else. It's very distracting. The way I don't think you want to. There's the cat ladies too. Kathy
that's gonna be chat. That's gonna be Chat GPT. Is that real?
My cat hates ICE. Cats against Collins. Oof.
Why is it always the cat ladies?
That is too stereotypical. Just like right out of Central Casting.
Kathy says Platner isn't the best pick to serve the Maine people. He doesn't represent what born and bred Maine people stand for. His temper is terrible. He works closely with the Somalians, and he hasn't brought any good points that strike me as he's the one. But as you said, if you mentioned here, Kathy, you said born and bred Maine people are out of favor in the Democratic Party, if you haven't noticed.
I will say that the press conference that Kiernan Majerus Collins spent $12,000 to pull together in Lewiston, the United for Somalia event, whatever it was, that Platner attended along with Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, former Republican State Senator Rick Bennett, Troy Jackson and company. I think that is going to age very, very poorly, especially as the investigation into Gateway intensifies, because our dear friend Sophia Khalid was a special assistant to Abdullahi Ali, and she was also running the Community Organizing Alliance out of the Gateway office building. Now, the Community Organizing Alliance must be aware of something or worried about something, because they've since deleted the page that had listed their board members, which included Abdullahi Ali, Fatuma Hussein, Joanne Darkangelo, Maureen Druin, and B.J. McAllister, some top Democrat lobbyists. They've also, Sophia Khalid and her brother Muhammad Khalid, have both edited their LinkedIn pages to list themselves as no longer working at the Community Organizing Alliance. So I suspect that the Community Organizing Alliance will be under the hot spotlight right side by side with Gateway, because it was really just a political arm of Gateway. So the decision of all of those politicos, including former Republican Rick Bennett, to shoulder up to Sophia Khalid of Gateway Community Services in the aftermath of the fraud scandals is going to be a very poor one. And I would add to that, Ayman Osman still facing two counts of gun theft, effectively firearms trafficking allegations. They're right there, shoulder to shoulder with these guys in solidarity with the Somalis who are at the center of some of these fraud scandals. I understand that their impulse was to do the progressive, multicultural champion thing, but I think that they were ignorant of the actual facts surrounding the people that they chose to associate with. And I think that you'll be able to draw a bright line between them and some of the worst Somali fraud cases because of their decisions to associate publicly, in particular with Sophia Khalid.
And it's something like, Deqa, we're charging you with these 4 federal crimes, and you could spend the next 12 years in Danbury, or you could just give us a name. This can all go away. And that's going to make this year very exciting, I think. Boys, we are just about out of time.
Yeah, I would say I think that there's a lot of people wondering, who at Gateway is going to stand up when they get that offer. Who, from what I understand, Ali was not the nicest guy to work for. So I'm sure there's lots of former employees looking to strike a deal or explain to federal investigators what they know. Not so much a problem for Ali. I'm not sure whether Kenya has. Kenya, I think, has an extradition treaty with the United States, but if he slips over the border into his beloved Jubaland, he might be safe from extradition. But again, if I was Deqa, I wouldn't be putting out press releases to the Press Herald. I'd be finding my way to Dubai.
With that, John Featherston, great day today, man. You were everywhere. The content is great. Guys, check it out. There's more that we didn't get to. Some great videos that John had. The waiting room next to Susan Collins' office became a center for excellent high comedy today, and John's got it all. Steve Robinson, great hit with Matt Walsh. I assume my invitation is pending, and that was just excellent storytelling. I think it's fair to say that we're going to be doing more content this year, more storytelling of our own, more videos, more everything. And I'm very much looking forward to it. He's Steve Robinson of the Robinson Report. John Featherston is our reporter for the Maine Wire. I'm Tom Shattuck of the Maine Wire, and we'll see you later.